must be so happy getting the last program of the day.
Yeah. And they put me up against another similarly techie type web talk. Just right over there. But that one had a technical level of medium, so I'm pretty good over there, so because that was too scary.
Will be easy.
I think I can take you on. All right, I'm going to start it. All right, I am a striker. I run the website at Pepperdine School of Law. I've been there since 2001, and I worked at a .com era company, homestore.com. They're still around, but not with me. Before that, for a while, and I built my first web page in '97, so I've been doing this a while. Basically, I run the website for law school. That's what I do. That's anything with the word web in it falls to me. Every once in a while, I have a student marketer or something. If I have a big project, but it's pretty much me versus the world. And Pepperdine is a medium-sized law school at a medium-sized private institution in beautiful California. There's going to be a lot of code, so if you want to see it kind of up close, it's all online at law.pepperdine.edu/XSLT. You can point your laptop there, or it'll be up there for until I get bored of it and check it out afterwards. Whatever. There's probably if what I'm talking about sounds pretty cool to you and you want to do it yourself, then it's still in code and do whatever you want. Code. There's a lot of it, so if that intimidates you, that's what this topic is about. So you might want to go someplace else. So there's a bunch of assumptions in this. How many people know HTML? XML? Any C-based language, anything like that? And last, but use very little, CSS. I'm not going to be talking much about CSS, but mainly when you see my HTML and you go, where are all the font tags? Yeah. This isn't a how-to on XSLT. The code I'm going to be writing I'll explain all the tags that are used in it, and it's pretty much all your basic tags that you're going to end up using if you make an XSLT script of your own. But this is my cool project, and we're going to be focused on that. And there's plenty of documentation on how to use XSLT out there, and it's pretty easy to use. XSL is mostly used to interpret tabular XML, which looks something like that usually. Really, it looks like regular XML, except it's very tabular. Each element has the same repeated sub-elements. That's what most people use it for. If you've got a products database or something like that, they want to put it on the web. They put it through an XSLT to be able to put it in an HTML table. That's all. We're going to do something a little better than that, and XSLT is cool enough to be able to do more than just tabular data. Unfortunately, most of the guides on how to use XSLT online are focused on that tabular data. But if you sort of ignore that, you'll get what you want. So why are we going to do this? Basically, content management systems are incomplete. They're really cool. They're necessary. If you're going to be a web guy, you're either going to spend all your time updating the website, or you have to offload the site and updates onto your users or the people out there that are actually know what the content they're putting on the website is all about. At which point, that leads you to do special projects like this. And unfortunately, they fall short. While it does offload the file maintenance to department liaisons. It doesn't maintain your navigation, so you have to sort of trust people to update the links to the files as they update the files, update the wording on the links, all that sort of stuff. Most CMS suites don't cover that. They just cover a way for people to, it's mostly just rights management. It's a way for somebody to be able to edit the file on the website in a WYSIWYG or something like that. This takes care of that. This fills that gap. And it doesn't practically implement templates. You've got to, whatever your template is that's out there, you have to sort of manage that through include files or through something like that. There's a lot out there besides just editing the content that's on a single file. And because of that template management, you're either going to have a whole bunch of includes, or every page on your site is going to have a lot of the repeated content. So this will give you the ability to keep your templates all updated using a single template, really a single template that is still very dynamic. Also, XSLT can clean code because because the way XSLT processes code, it selectively allows code, and sometimes even modifies what the actual tag names are, so that you can clean the bad code that's generated by different things. Unfortunately, I tried this out on a file generated by Word, and Word is still so messed up, it's not XML valid, and so it still freaks out. So for Word files, you have to copy and paste it to your CMS or something like that. But anything your CMS is going to be creating, this will be able to handle any further. And again, it will remove any attributes that aren't expressly allowed in the website. And lastly, because it's fun. All right, so what are the requirements for our project? It has to be able to complete a template that already exists, filling in any dynamic data that may be anywhere in that template. It has to automatically maintain the navigation simply by editing a file. You have to be able to just put a file in the directory and have all your navigation updated, so that all the person has to do is use the CMS. They don't have to use anything else. It has to be able to hide files because you don't really want the spring course schedule to be published during the fall, but it's going to be identical to next spring's course schedule, so you want to be able to update that, or you want to be able to keep that on the website, because all you're going to do is change the year or change a couple of courses or whatever. So you want to be able to keep it up there, but be able to hide the file. No include tags. I want to edit just a plain HTML, and I want to trust the users to put an include tag in there. And it's going to create code for CMS files. Generally, that just means a hidden link with the URL of the file somewhere in the hidden link. So we have to include that in our XML file we're going to create. So we are going to take, basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the HTML file and create metadata that we're going to populate into an XML file from that HTML file, which then we'll use through XSLT to populate a full web page. So how are we going to direct? So obviously you need a script to hash through the web page to be able to hash through the HTML file to extract the metadata. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to get it to that script? Do we have any ideas? Anybody that uses Apache? Heard about something? Mod rewrite. Anybody know what that is? Yeah, a few. Well, actually, tomorrow at 2:30, John Haywood, who helped me write my mod rewrite file, is going to be doing a session all about mod rewrite. Here is the mod rewrite content. Basically, you add this to your HTTP conf file for your Apache implementation. I believe other web servers have something that functions similar to this, but most people are using Apache, so this is Apache Central. It's pretty simple. You're going to turn on your rewrite engine. The first rule This takes anything in the XSLT directory that ends in HTML and changes the URL to send them off to this process script, and then reinserts the directory over here, basically everything that's in those parentheses. It reinserts right there. The cool thing about this is it's not a redirect. This happens all completely on the server side, so all the users see is the plain old URL that they've always seen. It looks like they're going to the regular HTML file, but actually it probably goes through this script that processes the file. And everything else is basically just handling various exceptions. The next line deals with an index file, so it just changes when it ends in a slash, it changes that to index.html. And then this line, if it's underneath that directory, that dot plus sign is just a regex variable. If you have a subdirectory, it also adds index.html. That's basically so that when you get inside the script, it can actually find the file, as opposed to seeing a slash and going. We're going to create a single script to run the entire website. We don't want to create other things. We want to manage the entire website via that single script. We don't want to mess around here. And it's got to be able to handle multiple style sheets. I'll comment when we get to the place where you would add that code in. Okay, if you know what you're doing, adding the code in to handle that is pretty simple. But I'm not going to really talk about it too much. I'm just going to do the single style sheet. So we go on to creating our HTML template. This is our final product that we want to make. And it's basically really simple with a bunch of places where we're going to try and insert dynamic content. Dynamic content is, those exclamation points are part of it. We're going to put the title of the web page into the title tag. We're going to figure out what department the page is in and put a link to that department, the department URL, and department name. We're going to generate navigation to this web page and to all the web pages surrounding the web page, basically navigation for the entire site, or at least for the entire directory that this page is in. And we're going to insert the content that's been cleaned. And then this is basically a whatever footer. Here's our XML template, and then obviously we need that XML template where we're going to include the content of our original source HTML file, and we're going to throw in a bunch of different metadata. So a lot of those variables you saw in the HTML file will be expressed here in the XML template. Here we have the navigation section, so putting in whatever files are there, putting in directories and subdirectories and subfiles underneath those directories for whatever directory you're in, so that you can see other relational files. Department, you're going to fill out the path to the actual file. This is the main reason we're including this is for your CMS. Department name, to be able to insert that name up in the top, up in the header section of your HTML. The root directory of your department, so that you can put a link to the department up in the top part of the HTML, and the raw file content. So now let's get into it. The XSLT, the full name XSLT refers to the actual file. XSL refers to the process of transforming an XML file into another meta language via an XSLT file. I don't know why the T is in reference to the actual file, especially when the actual file's extension is XSL, but that's the way it is, and so you'll need to know that when you're actually looking up any sort of extra research, or when you're doing any research on whatever tags you might want to be including in your own file. let's look at the XSLT file. This is the file that processes the XML into and bring that to that plain HTML file we want to get the end result. XML templates, or XSL templates. There's something else. XPath. XPath is part of XSL. XPath is a language that allows you to navigate an XML file. It's really easy. Basically, it functions just like a URL, except for every time you have a slash, you descend an element in your file. Slash new element down, slash new element down. So the URL is broken down as your file will be broken down. And the other main part of it is the @ symbol is used for an attribute inside an element. So the first template, so what it does is it starts at the beginning of your XML file and looks, and as it sees each tag, it looks for a template that matches that tag, and then processes that, and then inside each template there's calls to other templates, etc., etc. So first one we mapped to /root. So this is the first tag we're going to do. Basically, this is the whole of your HTML file with calls to other templates inside of it. So here in the title tag, we are grabbing, this is your first tag, value of. What the value of does is it puts the value of whatever element you're talking about. In this case, content/content/h3. This is, the h3 is basically the only requirement of the user on the HTML file, other than it being valid XML. I'm using the h3 tag to represent the title of the page. Choose whatever tag you want to use, any tag you use, just as long as it's consistent. Even if it's not consistent, you can probably hash it out and throw it into your HTML or your XML file. But in my case, I'm requiring them to include an h3 tag. It's the only requirement. So the h3 tag is thrown into the title of the page. Oh, and it's the first h3 tag. So any other h3 tags I may use get ignored. No problems there. We go to the body, the header. Here we apply the template for the department. That'll give us that department URL. Here we grab the navigation section. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to generate the full HTML for the navigation within the Java file that we're using to create that navigation. Here we're spitting out the content. This is the raw HTML file, because this later on in this script, once we apply this template, you'll see how we edit it. So now we'll move on to other templates. Here's our department template. These curly brackets are also part of XPath. What basically that allows you to, it's basically what's the one? Value of. So you just put the XPath to whatever you're looking for. The only reason that they use the curly brackets here is because it's an attribute, and for validate XML you can't have an element within another element. We apply a style. We have the XSL value of for the actual department name, and then we're just going to close it off the screen there. Next, the copy of command does exactly that. Value of only copies the content of the tag. Copy of contents everything, including the tag itself and any tags that may be within it. So this allows us to import our entire navigation structure from the XML directly into the web page. Same thing for content. Or actually, for content, we use apply templates, which basically means keep going. Take all the content you find. It's like a combination of value of and copy of. It takes the value of whatever is inside that tag and passes it on, and then it continues to go through all these templates and looks for further matches. So that's the way we can replace other elements that are already existing in here. And then we get into some of those elements. So apply the template of meta. This is basically a hack I wrote into the system. This allowed to be able to do a refresh. I had to include this in here. Basically, this gives us the ability to create an outside link. Because what the file, to create this navigation structure, it's going to read all the files that are actually in the folder. So we create if we want to include a link in the navigation that goes outside of our regular website or to another page within the website, you just have an HTML file with an H3 of the title of what you want, and that meta refresh to wherever it's going. It'll create the link within the navigation, and then you click it, it'll go to the page refresh and take you to where you want it to go. So that's a little bit more advanced to tell somebody how to add a link. If you have one of your less techy users out there that are editing the website and want to create an outside link, you might have to make it for them or something like that. But really, that's like 5 minutes of your time, so not really that big a deal. Here we apply the other code, other tags. Again, in this case, all we're doing is just grabbing the tag itself and just rewriting it. The reason we're not using the copy of is in case they have any weird code in there. In case they have a style for their own personal CSS or whatever that they might have included in there, we can omit all their styles and everything else. So all they get is the actual content of the H3 tag. We do the same for H4, H5, H6, P, break, M, strong. Here's our first replacement. In this one, in I, we're actually going to replace that with the XHTML valid M tags, and same thing for V. We replace that for strong. Note we don't have a U in here because I don't like underlining things voluntarily. You know, you can do whatever you want, whatever your style is, whatever you want to include in here. It's pretty simple. We go back to another just no break. It's done easily. Image. Here again, we're pulling in the source attribute, the width attribute, the height attribute, and this is my own class that I throw on most images that aren't part of the template, which helps it fall within my own personal template. Whatever your CSS is, whatever your default way of handling images, this is a good way for me to be able to get the images to wrap around. I've got a little CSS script written out that handles the images that aren't part of the template. So put the class equals right in there. Really, I could probably omit that and just apply a single CSS thing to every image and then omit images in my template. Works out the same way. Especially with something like this, I can just universally apply it to every image and no one has to add it or make sure it's in their code. Table, TR, same thing. And inside the TH, I'm throwing the v-align top in there to make so that whenever somebody uses the header inside a table, it aligns it to the top so that if they put a TH next to a TD, the header isn't in the middle of the table. I don't know why that's the natural way of doing things, but it is. So that's just a workaround. And lastly, links. Here's another thing. Here's another new XSL thing. The choose tag. This is basically the world's most complicated if else. I don't know why they have it written out this way. It's pretty ridiculous, but wrap the whole thing in choose. XSL when test equals. So whenever this tag A includes an href, it's going to write out the href version. Whenever it includes the tag, the attribute name, it writes out the name. There you have it. The matched when, in case it's not something where you want to explicitly ask for two different attributes, but if you want to exclude a single attribute and then include the rest, XSL otherwise is your other tag. So it's basically your else, but they wanted extra letters because they're weird. All right, so that is our XSL file. XSLT file. Now the JSP. This is where most of the stuff I'm using in here can be written in any C-based language. JSP is what I use. Whatever. Use PHP. I don't care. I'm going to go through this pretty fast and just explain what sections are. I'm not going to go line by line or anything crazy like that. Basically, I'm going to grab the path. I get it from the query string URL, put it into the slash, I tack on index.html. Otherwise, I just grab the URL itself. Then the only thing that's going to vary drastically from site to site is this root path. All this is the number of characters from the root of your actual web server into where you store your website content. This is so that because we have to verify if things are files or not, or check things that way, you have to use the full path from the actual root of your web server as opposed to the root of your website. And so we need to know how long that is so that we can omit it from the string when we pull things out and write them into like a URL or something.
So is that like the root path to wherever you have
correct.
your
So it'd be like slash.
for the Apache?
Correct. So it'd be like slash user slash local whatever blah blah blah. So we use this to determine what the root directory is of wherever your file is. We just grab it. This is running on a Windows box right now, and so I've included these little things, double slash, double backslash, and then I have to replace it out to turn it into a URL. Obviously, just omit that on a Linux box or anything else. It's just one of the annoying things that you have to deal with when you use a Windows box. Directory path, that gives us the path to the full directory wherever of where your site, wherever the raw HTML file is stored, not including actual HTML. Now we're going to generate the navigation. That's what this whole file is basically doing. We take whatever file you're at. Because JSP treats files and directories the same, you have to verify that the file is a file. If it's a file, we basically we read the file line by line. That's what all this is doing, is just setting up a file reader. If the lines start, then we trim it, and if the line starts with H3, then we find out what the URI of the file is, and we output the URI and the line with the H3, excluding the H3 open and the H3 close, just mathematically. And the file URI, and this part right here is just making sure that we don't run the same file twice. So if you have a second H3 tag inside the file, it ignores it and keeps on going to the next file. If it's a directory, and if the directory is not the directory that you're in currently, then you're going to just do basically the same thing, with the exception of, instead of reading the file to find out what the name of the file is via the H3 tag, it's going to look at the name of the directory. And what this section does in here is it basically capitalizes the first letter, turns any underscores into spaces, and changes the next letter after the underscore into a capitalized letter, and then outputs that as the file, as the directory name inside of the actual link. So you have to make sure that they're naming the directories what they want the directories to be named on the website using that underscore. Then it spits out the link just like that. If it is the directory you're in currently, it does the exact same thing. Spits out the link without the closing li. And then it searches for this navigation JSP. I've included this just in case there are sections of the site where my hack, there's two different hacks that we can use. The hack that allows people to leave the actual site that I talked about before at the minute. And then since this is only processing files that in an HTML, you can hide a file by removing the L. So you have that HTML. If there's way too many files in a directory, that who knows why, I just wrote this in there just to make sure all my bases were covered. We just search for this. We just search for this navigation.jsp. If they happen to include that, I named it JSP so that it can process any additional things that I might want to be running. I'm not using this now. I just wrote it in there so that I could in the future. So it searches for that navigation.jsp. If it can't find it, it goes through and does the exact same thing it just did. It checks to see if it's a file. If it is a file, it outputs the listing of the file name. And then basically this is just closing out the loop, and it goes file by file. Closes up the UL, closes up LA, closes up the last UL, in of file. This will generate a standard HTML list of your directory structure relative to whatever file you're actually in. Or whatever file is declared inside that. So obviously we're just going to add that into the XML that we've already generated. Good. Here's the XML's beginnings, and then instead of having those that reference where we were going to include something later, we have full JSP that we just read. We close out the navigation section. We go into the department and then here when we grab the path, we've already decided what the path is when we were discovering what the directory structure is. So we just output it right there. This is a dynamic section of the page. It's going to vary no matter what. We're just going to figure out what the department name is. So if it's academics, it's academics. If it's CEDL, Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology Law. Because these are in the root directory, I didn't want to use the version I did before where I did the word underscore, just because, the department name is Strauss Institute for Dispute Resolution, and that's really long to have to include in your directory name or even include in your URL for the file. So here we're just quickly going through all your root files. Obviously, you could use the other hack I was using, or the other thing I was using before, where we just translate the file name. And then again, we grab that department name, the actual department, academics, whatever it is, the actual directory name, and we spit it out here. And here we include the content. This is grabbing the raw content because we're trusting the XSLT file to actually translate all the content. We're just going to spit out the content directly into this part of the JSP file or the XML file. It's just the file reader, and we write out the line of the file line by line. The only exception is we don't include any lines that have JSP. Again, I was just making sure. XSL. This is our actual process. We're basically building up to one big giant file. Real simple. We use Java server servlet tag libraries. We import the core tag libraries and the XML tag libraries. And then we import our XSLT file, which is default XSL. This file is the exact one we were just working on. And this is where you could write any sort of code where you would process a different file based on what directory you're in or whatever. Again, I'm not really doing that in this thing, but it's pretty easy to do, especially if you know what you're doing. We had to exclude the doc type from the XSLT file. It's one problem with XSLT that I haven't been able to figure out a solution for, is if there's doc type in there, says, what are you doing? I already know this is an XSLT file. So we have to include doc type inside this file so that it gets included at the top of our final HTML files to make it valid XHTML. Then we tell it to transform. This is one of the tag library tags. Transform the XSLT file against, and then you include whatever XML you want. And this is where we include that whole XML script that we just created. You can very easily just import the XML file from someplace else and have the tag read transform XSLT equals the file you imported, and then XML equals the file you imported, and just close that in a single tag. I did it this way to be able to have all my content in a single file, or all my scripting in a single file. And then we just have the whole thing. So here's your final file. Open up you grab your imports. You have your beginning doc type we just talked about, you transform, and then here's the entire XML/JSP file that we created before. This gets it out in its entirety. Then we close it out. Using this thing, you can manage your entire website with a single file. There's a couple exceptions to using this. Actually, there's only one that I've been able to think of. Pages without navigation. If you, for some reason, have a page that you want to exclude the navigation from, you're going to have to figure out a way to handle that. Basically, I've created a second master script that looks exactly like the first master script, except includes the navigation section and includes whatever links I want to include in there. Again, you could also very easily just create a navigation.jsp file and throw that in the directory. I can't think of any other exceptions or any other reason you wouldn't be able to use this, except if somebody created the Word file from HTML. But again, you can claim that however you want to. Anybody else think of anything? I can't. We can also, using the code we've already created, you can break that out into objects, and I've used those objects to create other important things to help me manage my site. On the website, there's a bunch of drop-down menus from the top that stay static throughout the entire website, sort of global navigation, top-level directories. I use some of the code where I find the same code you just saw to create that navigation.jsp. I just use that to create the global navigation as well. Same thing with the sitemap. You can create a sitemap that's dynamic, so you don't have that sitemap page on your site that you always have to go back to and is never up to date. And I also used it to create a custom 404 page, so that when somebody gets a 404, it uses the content of the URL they requested to look for a page that might have that similar content on it, and then it'll serve them up a page they might want it instead. And if not, it goes to a Google search of my site using that content in the URL for the search query, and it already has a search processed and run of whatever the top 10 possible results are. So really, nobody ever sees a true 404 page. They always see a lead to something else. And lastly, we just have the sample files all in one place, so that you can go in and do your own thing. Any questions? None at all. Justin?
The XSLT or XSL is for basically transforming your metadata, right?
Yes.
Could you use something like this to say transform a website that, let's say, was fine on a Windows PC or at a certain resolution, and put it on something that would then look maybe appropriate for a Pocket PC that's got smaller screen, sort of change
Yeah,
the attributes of certain things?
But really what you want to do, the right solution for that would be to have your style for your website not actually in your HTML, and use CSS and use a different CSS file for your PDA or whatever. You could use this to swap out tag for tag if you, as sort of like a stopgap solution, but really what you really should be doing is using CSS, is using alternate CSS files.
You lay out your hardware and other underpins, the software underpins you're using for the rest of this.
Yeah, I'm running, on this test version, on our final website, it's running on a Solaris box. Test version is on a Windows box. Apache, Tomcat, mod SSL, mod rewrite, mod PHP, but I'm not using that here. So,
How migration to the newer OS? The migration issue might be the next thing. How would you?
Using the script on different OS, all you have to do is move your slashes
I'm
together.
remembering the days of Linux when you upgraded the flavor and on the days when I was with it would have broken under that was not was there. Fix might have been a little bit tougher. So how would you handle your next up?
Well, really, the only thing that's OS determinate is the number of characters from the root of your site into, or the root of your server into the root of your site. I mean, everything else is going to be standard files and
You
directories.
said Apache, didn't you?
Yeah.
Didn't Apache at one time go through a stage where they were flipping around the directories to turn on? I can recall that.
I don't know about that. Anything else? Cool. Thank you.
Can
Yeah.
we see it in live? Is this covered on?
Well, no, this right here is running. The entire website
it
we're
runs
looking at right now.
Pepperdon, so I'll have to just go to Pepperdon and see. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually using this for our redesign. So the redesign site runs this. Our current website does not run this.
Okay.
Yeah. I would love to be able to show it off, but we had fun waiting for the design to come through the new university stuff, and so it wasn't ready yet for this.
Where's the original HTML that was pulling from, rewriting and all that stuff?
Just hang on the server.
Does that any different? Like that's sort of like that.
No, that's sort of the point. Is that as long as all your tags are closed, things like that, it'll work. So basically, anything. Again, this is mostly designed to complement a content management system, and so anything created in a content management system specifically is going to have the tags closed, even if it includes tags that you might not want or something like that in it. So it'll mostly work.
CMS that you're using?
We use something called Omni Update. It works. It does. I mean, it works basically the same as most CMSs out there. I haven't really found a perfect CMS that has the perfect WYSIWYG and the perfect user interface.
Don't get me wrong, it's really clever, really super, and I just have kind of a nervous eye when I see something as sophisticated as that kind of might continue dealing like that. And support issues I very essential.
It seems pretty stable. I mean, it's not. It looks pretty complicated, but really, it's the same sort. It's like the same three processes.
What were the users doing in particular, or failing to do in particular? What problem were you trying to kind of rectify more than anything else?
Link rot throughout the site.
What?
Link rot, when somebody updates a website, updates a page here and doesn't update the navigation that links to that page, or they erase a page and they replace it with another page, or countless other things. They change the title of the page, but they don't change the title of the link. Anything that involves a link not seeming exactly accurate to whatever the final page would be.
You were also standardizing some of the layout there too, I noticed, which wasn't a bad idea too. I mean, you were doing some.
Yeah, that's just sort of my own thing of wanting the code to be, the final code to be pretty clean. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.